Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Imagine for a second you're embarking on a classic USA train trip. You're settling into your seat, getting comfortable, and just gazing out at the incredible passing landscape. Now, while it's super easy to marvel at those massive, powerful locomotives themselves, today we're going to uncover a hidden engineering marvel right beneath our feet. We're looking at the vital architecture of railway expansion gaps. Specifically, we'll be analyzing the relentless everyday conflict between thermal dynamics and static infrastructure, and we're really going to dive into exactly how modern engineering manages heat in railway design. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture yourself standing on a station platform, or maybe looking down as your carriage slowly crosses a line. Have you ever actually noticed those small, kind of seemingly insignificant gaps between the individual sections of the track? If you aren't actively looking for them, you might just assume they're a construction error, or maybe just random empty space. But in reality, no way. Those tiny empty spaces are performing an incredible amount of heavy lifting. They serve as an absolutely critical safeguard for our national infrastructure.
Section 1. The physics of steel tracks.
To truly get why these gaps even exist, we really have to look at the elemental clash happening every single day right outside your train window. It's basically the story of solid, heavy steel going directly head-to-head with the shifting extremes of our weather. You see, like all metals, steel is governed by its coefficient of thermal expansion. When railway tracks sit out in the blazing summer heat, the metal absorbs that energy and, well, it physically grows in volume. Conversely, when the temperature drops and the whole environment freezes, that exact same steel becomes cold and contracts, shrinking right back down. These invisible thermal forces are constantly pushing and pulling the metal, season after season, and that requires continuous, smart mitigation.
Section 2. Why heat causes accidents.
So the crucial point is that failing to account for these massive forces of physics isn't just a minor inconvenience for maintenance crews. It is a severe threat to structural integrity that affects literally every passenger on board. Just imagine a scenario where there are no gaps at all during a brutal summer heat wave. Because the metal has absolutely no room to expand, immense longitudinal pressure just builds up within the rail. Eventually, the structural threshold is breached, leading to what the industry calls thermal buckling, or a sun kink. The track just violently warps completely out of its geometric alignment. And as soon as the track geometry is compromised by these dramatic buckles or cracks, any train traveling over that line is in immediate danger of a catastrophic derailment. So ignoring the sheer power of thermal expansion leads directly to disastrous accidents. And that brings us directly to a brilliantly simple, fundamentally elegant structural engineering solution, the traditional expansion joint. By intentionally engineering small spaces between the steel segments, the track is given the necessary room to breathe. The steel can safely grow in the summer heat and shrink back down in the winter cold, entirely without compromising the railway line itself. It's a purely passive but highly reliable safety system built directly into the track's architecture. Section 3. Modern Thermal Engineering Design. Now, what's really interesting about this is that human innovation doesn't stand still, and neither does our infrastructure. A major shift in modern rail technology has been the widespread adoption of continuous welded rail, or CWR. You've definitely ridden on these newer, seamless tracks. They offer a much quieter, way faster ride. But here's the catch. The underlying physics of steel hasn't changed one bit. The summer heat is absolutely still there. So how exactly does modern engineering manage this heat without those traditional expansion joints? Well, instead of leaving gaps, engineers use incredibly smart tension-based designs. The continuous steel is physically stretched or heated to a very specific stress-free temperature, right during installation. Then it's locked down with exceptionally heavy concrete sleepers, the ties, and secured by high-tension clips. This super robust structural framework literally forces the rail to internally absorb the thermal stress. It effectively neutralizes the expansion forces without the track ever physically growing. It's brilliant. So whether utilizing the physical relief of those traditional expansion gaps or deploying the modern internal stress management of continuous welded rail, the overarching engineering goals remain entirely identical. The objective is always to absorb those dramatic, inevitable temperature fluctuations to guarantee a remarkably smooth, highly efficient, and, above all, flawlessly safe journey for both high-speed passenger cars and heavy freight. Managing thermodynamics is ultimately a massive safety feature, protecting lives every single day. Section 4. The expanding track phenomenon. And this brilliantly illustrates just how dynamic our seemingly static world really is. We've covered the engineering and the safety mechanics, but let's take a second to truly appreciate the sheer scale of the physics at play here.
To put a specific metric on this phenomenon, a single 1-mile stretch of continuous, unanchored steel rail will expand roughly 40 inches for every 100 degrees Fahrenheit rise in temperature. Just imagine that. That immense, immovable mass of heavy steel physically stretching more than 3 feet down the line under a baking sun if it weren't properly engineered. It's a stunning reminder of the sheer kinetic power of nature constantly interacting with human infrastructure.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Next time you embark on a train trip and you hear that classic rhythmic clack-clack of the wheels over an expansion joint, or you're gliding silently over the immense tension of continuous welded rails, will you notice the invisible thermal engineering keeping you safe? I really hope you look down at those tracks, see beyond just the cold steel, and recognize the masterful, continuous dance between smart human design and the powerful forces of nature. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and keep looking closely at the brilliant, everyday infrastructure all around you.